Good day, my friends, and welcome to my van life, health and care, where we can come here and be real and discuss how to be more healthy and talk about subjects like that. And also keep in mind, I do travel with disabilities, even though I will not be talking about it all the time under this title, but once in a while I will be discussing here what it's like to travel on the road or any challenges with those disabilities. But in the meantime, this is part 2 of my video that I did under Heatwave and beating the heat wave. So if you missed that first video, I will put a link to it up above. I always forget what side it is. I'll learn it later. But this is the one where I continue to talk about dog care and helping your pet overcome heat wave issues when you're on the road. And in this video, I also share especially concerns that I have with dealing with my particular dog, Milo, that doesn't always drink a lot of water. So we're going to pick up where I was at a previous location, so you'll see clips when I was there, and then we're going to come back, and I just remembered that I forgot some pretty important things that I would really like to share with you all. So let's go pick up right where I left off with talking about the dog care and also some shade and how I position the shade around my rig. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about pets. I want to go get Milo and let's talk about him. Alright, so here is Milo, and he is wearing a cool wrap. Okay, so same concept of what I'm wearing around my neck. Okay, it's kind of dirty because it was wet and he went underneath the van, so he might get me a little dirty here. Anyways, but it's really cool to touch. I'm always making sure that it is wet, okay? And you don't want it to dry because it gets very hard and stiff. And then so what's going to happen is Milo will end up like he's got this stiff board wrapped around his back or his upper body, right? Not a good thing. So I make sure that it's wet all the time, and it'll keep him cool. The other thing is Milo doesn't drink enough water, so I do have to keep syringes on hand and make sure that I get water. Hold on. Because see, he does not want to drink, and he has to make sure he gets enough water just like us. So I make sure he gets one of these, you know, about at least every hour. And yep, to about an hour and a half or so. And then I'm always checking. I pinch behind the back, and then I see how much it drops. It should drop very quickly. If it drops very slow, then they're starting to get or his is slightly getting slow, so he's slightly starting to get dehydrated. Where if it goes really super slow, like it's just gonna go, you know, it's like really slow, then they are completely dehydrated. So I'm gonna end up getting another one of those down him before I let him go back underneath the van and re-wet this. Okay, so make sure your pups are getting enough water. Another thing is you can give them a pull and anything that they can play in water, because remember, they cool themselves down by their feet. Okay, that's the only way with from their only sweat glands, anything they got is from the feet and from panting. Okay, I mean, they don't have glands in here, but that's how they cool. Their cooling method is by panting and from their feet. Okay, so make sure they have adequate enough water to be able to do that. Okay, if you have any questions or anything that you come up with that we need to talk about, definitely put that in the comments when it has to do with our pets' care. Okay. Oh, and another thing that I do want to make sure, and this goes for humans and pets, make sure if you walk or exercise them, it's early in the morning and later in the evening. I probably don't have to tell you this, but just to make sure we all know, that's when it's going to be the coolest part of the day, and that's when you can let them move around a little bit more. But you may have to do what you have to do to keep them from running around too much and getting too hot, but always check their hydration. And same thing with us, you know, we're moving around the most in those times of the day when it is the coolest. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go give him some more water, and then we'll touch on the last couple subjects. One of the best things that I have invested in, and I think it is a must-have for everybody, if you have a way to anchor it, that's the key, is one of these sun cells. My friend, one of my best friends, Christina, told me about this, and I am so glad that I listened to her and I invested in this sun cell. I will put a link to the video of how I mount it and what's required to put it up. But you do need to have obviously an anchor point, and if you're going to attach it to your rig somehow, which I do, and then I have 2 tent poles. So this was about $39, and then my tent poles were about $25 or something like that. And then I have my anchor strap, and it can withstand quite a bit of wind. So that's one of the reasons why I like it, because it protects against the ultraviolet rays from the sun. Air can get through it. It gives you some light, but yet you know, shield you from the sun, so you get shade, but not the ultraviolet lights rays. Squirrel. Squirrel. Yeah, look how cool. I know you, I don't know if you can see. Look, you want to see the squirrel? See if I can show you the squirrel. Okay, let's see, where is he? All right, there he is. Let's see. Right up there. I hope you can. Oh, there he moved. He's moving up the tree. Oh, look how fast he's running. There he goes. That was the cutest sound. All right. Now, not to make you guys dizzy. Okay, so that was fun. So this really does help, but I'm not going to end up putting it up unless I have, you know, going to sit somewhere for about a week because of my disabilities, and it is a, you know, I mean, it's still energy. Everything in my world I have to think is energy. Is it worth the energy to put this up? Or if I'm only going to sit somewhere for a couple of days, then I have to think about, okay, well, is this really worth the energy to do this? If I can get around it another way, I will just position my van in a way that it will protect me from the sun. Okay, so then I'll make sure on my driver's side it gets adequate shade as the sun is going up and over. Okay, so then that's what I will do with my van. So that's a tip, or you know, if anybody trying to get from point A to point B, that's what you can do. Let me show you too at my van what I do, and this is only for those that end up having the ability to get fans running, okay? If you don't have an inverter or solar, then this won't apply to you, but definitely I would invest in some way of hooking up a sun cell. It's a really worthwhile investment to give yourself some shade. So important. Okay, so I have an inverter right here that's going on, and I have invested in a really nice heavy duty 14 gauge surge protector type electrical outlet. I can hook my fans to this and other things to this as well as I'm charging things. This is the best investment that I could have done. Okay, so I've got my Max Air fan going up there, and of course the next thing that's really important is this. Okay, I try to have as many of my windows open as possible, and I made these little screens that I can put over my window. I don't need them here because it's not very buggy, but if you are in an area where you have lots of bugs, you're going to want to be able to open up, get ventilation, get air, but then definitely not let bugs in if you have to, you know, save yourself from them, okay? And I've got everything open as much as possible. I do have my Reflectix. I have to cover the front one because I removed the front. Now that the sun had moved over, then I put my Reflectix back towards the front. Okay. See how mostly I am in the shade over here, and then I'm starting to get more shade. This is late afternoon, and I have nice shade here early in the morning. And then I get plenty of shade towards the latter part of the afternoon. I'm redoing some stuff and organizing some of my clothes, why this is all out here. That's what I do if I'm in an area where I can get shade from the trees. I don't want to completely cover my rig in the shade because I need it for solar. Okay, so I just positioned my van because east is this way and then west is going over this way, so I get plenty enough shade here in the morning, and yeah, through, I mean, a little sliver, and then enough, and then definitely by the time that sun starts to set over there, I'm doing really well in this area for shade. Down this evening from that. But anyways, I hope some of these things helped. It definitely is different when you're in an area where you were in the desert and you have no kind of shade. So remember, the most important thing at that point is I will position my van so that this side of my van, and everybody's going to be different according to what kind of vehicle you have and where your entrance and is going to be in and out entrance from the van, which mine is from my passenger side where I'm always coming in and out, and I sit there in the chair that's turned around. So I always like to have that area that's going to be in the shade wherever I'm at, if I'm not gonna definitely put anything up for my shade. If I do, then it might be a different situation, because the last thing I'll mention is the sun cell, because you don't want wind to come directly at that sun cell. So you want your wind, if the van is here and this is the sun cell, you want your wind to come through it this way, but not to come straight on as it's coming, into the cell towards the van. It's just going to come in, and you can imagine, pick it up and try to lift it up and damage it. All right, so one of the things that I wanted to discuss that I realized that I missed is a couple of things. And everybody is going to be different. But again, my audience has a tendency to be more women, and I travel sometimes by myself, but also sometimes with my boyfriend Kent, who is Kent from Northwest Hiker. So when I am traveling alone, I will definitely do things a little bit different, okay? And also it just depends on where I'm at and also how comfortable I feel in that particular area or where I'm at. If I feel somewhat comfortable, but maybe I might need to be able to leave quickly, I want to get to my front seat and get out, that will also determine whether I feel comfortable enough to put out my shade sun sail, even if I'm going to be at a location for a long period, okay? So that is going to determine what I'm going to do, or I'll just go for how I'm going to just position my van for that shade. But definitely I feel 100% comfortable. I don't think I really need to worry about anything. Then I will definitely put out that shade, okay? So another thing to keep in mind is the van or the rig that you have, how insulated it is. Now my van is very insulated all through the walling and everything. I'm really impressed of how it's so insulated. I don't know the exact materials on hand, but maybe in the future I can do a separate video that talks about the insulation. If you are in like a cargo van or something like that that you have converted and put some insulation in there, or you have very little, your van obviously is going to get more hot. So you might have to do more things or that are going to help you to block off that heat, okay? But once again, how well are you willing to block it off if you need to get away more quickly, especially if you are a woman on the road, or a person, even it could be a man, that you're in a situation, because they can get harassed just as well as a woman. So it really is going to depend on your safety and how you feel safe, because some people will use tarps and use things and block and cover and just pretty much engulf their vehicle with all kinds of tarps and things to block off the sun. But am I going to feel safe that I can get away quickly, okay, in that situation? Once again, if I feel I'm completely in a safe place, I don't feel like I need to get away quickly for any reason, then maybe I might go to those extra measures. But I haven't personally invested in tarps and things like that. Another reason why I don't is actually two reasons. Number one is I'm not as sensitive to the heat like everybody, like some other people. I actually like it warmer. My body does better when it's warmer than when it's colder. So I welcome some heat. I'm just not as sensitive, and I don't perspire as much as some other people, where I have friends that, oh my gosh, they just do not like anything above 80 degrees. And I'm at 90 and I'm comfortable, and I'll show my van says it's 90 inside, it's 94 outside, and I'm not extremely over hot, okay? And I have fans going, as I mentioned, and I'm completely comfortable, okay? So it is also going to mean your comfort level, obviously, against heat. I do much better in dry heat than also if there is more humidity. Today it's a drier heat, and sometimes we can get a little more moisture in the air, which can cause it to be a little bit more humid, and of course then I'm going to feel a little bit more uncomfortable. The second thing with me and my van, and I have this door kind of closed only because I need to do this video, but I actually love to look out. I don't want everything completely blocked off, because if I did need to be inside for the shade or whatever reason, need to work on something, I love to look out. That is just me, bringing that outdoors in. I don't want things so engulfed or closed up or anything that I can't appreciate nature and also be aware of my surroundings. Also for safety, I will block off my front, but not my sides. I like to look out my sides. I've got screens like I showed you, so I can look out, enjoy nature. But again, I just got fans going. I'm not so sensitive about the heat that I have done, and I did a video in my first year of creating and making these Reflectix, okay? I have two different style Reflectix that I put around my windows. Basically, I have them for every single window. And some of my windows have like about an inch, inset. And so I'll show you on the back window how I made that particular one to fit. It kind of pops inside of that, little groove in there, and also on my back windows. But the front ones, I even have them for my side windows. I even have it for these, side doors here, but I never use them on the side doors. I really don't, because I like to look out. So that's not a, thing that I do, but I will put them on the front at night when I sleep, if it's cold, definitely to help keep the warm in. But when it's hot, I like to look out, or I might leave that one on, but not this one, so I don't enclose it all up. Now, some of my window covers will have Reflectix with polyiso boards, okay? And you get an adhesive glue after you make your little template. You cut it to your size, you glue it together, and these pop in, especially the windows that have a little groove in there. It pops right in there. So those kind of windows in this particular van, I was able to put these polyiso boards. They're in all my little porthole windows, and those stay covered all the time. This goes in my front one, but the only thing in my front one is now I have solar lights that I like to have, so they do need some sun, and then later I can shut them off, and then in high part of the day then cover up those front skylight windows with these covers. I also have them for the back. So this is what I have for my back one. Oh, so it covers that up. It's got the polyiso board, and this one only has the one sheet of Reflectix and polyiso board because of the type of thickness that I have on that back window and what I was trying to do back there for my coverage. So I have two nice big covers back there. Okay, so I'm going to show you the windows, or the back, how I have it, and then we'll wrap this video up. But I hope this is helpful on what I do in my van. Here is the window, and I do have the Reflectix that I can put on the bottom part of this, but honestly I hardly use it unless it's in the winter and it's more cold. Then I will pop those in there, because I'm not wanting to open up my window at that time of the year or the evening. I have these back windows not open as much, but definitely when it's hotter I do. So these are the covers, and I put these little loops that I can actually grab and it pops out. Okay, so this is what I was talking about, the little groove. See this window, how deep that is in there? And so I made the poly iso board, and I glued the Reflectix, and I have taped this together with a Reflectix tape. And basically this just goes and pops. I don't know if I could do it one hand. Okay, and there it goes. It just pops right in there. And when I pulled that out, because the sun is on that side, boy, you can just feel that heat just radiate just from this front window. Okay, the top one. But with this angled, you know, the window angled, I'm able to get some air in here, which is also important for airflow, than actually sealing this up completely. Okay, so here is the back one. This fell down, but you can just get an idea that I have the back one, and I always leave one up there, but I like to look out in the morning, and Milo does too. But if it's super hot, then of course, or the sun is on this back window, then I will put the other one back up after I get up. But because the sun is not directly at the back of my van, I left it off because, once again, I like to look outside of this big window as much as possible when I can. Okay, now I have been seriously thinking about getting a cover more for the outside of the front, and I do have an extra sheet of Reflectix that I might just try to put some magnets on that and then put it on the outside, some strong one, or I may end up ordering the one that goes over the front. But the only thing is, I've seen some styles that go over the front, but it also goes over the side. And I really don't want that. I mean, I don't mind this one side because, you know, I'm not always looking that way, but I'm mostly looking out this way. So I may get something like that in the future, but we'll see what the future holds and how I make changes, or especially when I'm with Kent, versus what I might do when I'm alone. But I'm thinking with him, I may put that one on the outside. Just feel, if you are a person, might have more sensitivity about your safety, then I don't want anything covering even that front window that I'm going to have to try to get out to take off, if that makes sense. In that particular situation, I'd rather just be able to pull off what I need to pull off from the inside, get in that driver's seat and get out, and not have to get outside of my rig to take anything off. That's why I'm very careful about when I'm alone, when I put that sun cell up, okay? If I feel just totally in a peaceful place, I'm all by myself down a forest road, you know, I actually feel very safe like that. But if I'm in a even a campground where it is a free campground, I'm gonna sense the vibe and the people, and if there are people there, if I'm sitting there all by myself, then probably not, you know. So I'm going to just see where my comfort level is and the situation. But if I was in a paid campground, I have no problem obviously doing any of those things. So I hope this helps, or things to think about, what you can do to give yourself some shade, cut down the heat, also be safe. Depends on your situation. Some people say, well, that's why I would be chasing 70 degrees, you know, but that's not always the case. I mean, I'm mostly chasing 70 degrees, but when I started to have to be in my home domicile area because of dealing with doctors and meds and, you know, all kinds of other situations, that changed the whole game about me chasing 70 degrees. peace, because your world can change in a heartbeat, and you need to be prepared and ready for anything that could happen on the road. All right, so with that in mind, if you definitely have any questions or you have anything you want to add that you use to help with your, heat or reducing it, put it down in the comment and let's talk about that, or any other tips about keeping dogs cool as well. Okay, all right. I love you all, and thanks for coming along my journey and sharing and us just learning things along the way together. I'll see you in that next video.